I came home to a 2-month pregnancy after a 4-month trip, and my in-laws told me to deal with it. I stepped through the front door after 4 months on an oil rig, smelling of salt and industrial grease, expecting the standard welcome home dinner. Instead, Clara sat me down before I could even drop my bags and told me she was 2 months pregnant. The math hit me like a physical blow. I had been gone for 16 weeks. I looked at her, waiting for the joke, waiting for the explanation that she'd somehow gotten the dates wrong. But she just stared back with a cold, defiant clarity. She told me, "I don't care what you have to say about it, Julian. We are keeping this baby, and that's final." The silence that followed was suffocating. I didn't yell. I didn't even move. I just felt the slow, freezing realization that the woman I had worked myself to the bone for, the woman I sent every single paycheck to while I lived in a cramped bunk in the middle of the ocean, was looking at me like I was a stranger blocking her path. A week later, we were at her parents' house for a Sunday dinner. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I thought if I brought it up in front of her family, someone would talk some sense into her. I waited until the main course was served. Then I dropped the bomb. I told them everything. I told them I'd been gone for 4 months, that she was 2 months along, and that she was clearly carrying someone else's child. I expected shock. I expected her mother to gasp or her father to look at her in disappointment. Instead, Clara's mother just wiped her mouth with a napkin and looked me dead in the eye. She said, "The only thing that matters is the child, Julian. From whom the child comes is irrelevant. What matters is that this will be our grandchild, and we will welcome them." I felt like I was losing my mind. I looked at Clara, who was calmly eating her salad, and then at her father. I asked him if he heard what they were saying, if he realized I was being treated like a ghost in my own marriage. Her father leaned forward, his voice low and cutting. He said, "Why is it, Julian, that she didn't get pregnant for 7 years with you? You knew she wanted children. Why did nothing ever happen? Maybe you should be asking yourself why another man had to do what you couldn't." That comment stayed with me, festering like an open wound. I went to a urologist the following Monday. I needed to know. The results were a final, crushing blow. I had extremely low sperm motility. Slow swimmers, the doctor called them. He told me it wasn't impossible to conceive, but after 7 years of trying with no success, the odds were abysmal. It explained the years of not quite happening, but it didn't excuse the betrayal. It just made the humiliation feel more permanent. A few weeks later, we were out at a bar with a group of our longtime friends. The tension between us was a living thing, vibrating in the air. Someone suggested a game of truth or dare. It was childish, but everyone was a few drinks in. When it was my turn to ask Clara, I didn't hold back. I asked, "Clara, do you go on dates when I'm away on the rig?" The table went silent. She took a sip of her drink, looked me in the eye and said, "Yes, I do." The air left the room. My friends were staring at their coasters, paralyzed. I pushed further, my voice shaking. I asked, "Clara, are you cheating on me?" She didn't even blink. She said, "Yes, Julian. I sleep with other men when you are gone for 6 months at a time. What did you think I was doing? Sitting by the window waiting for you for years? You chose that job. You chose to leave for months, come back for a few weeks, and then disappear again. What kind of story do we even have? You're just a voice on a phone and a deposit in a bank account." I stood up, the chair screeching against the floor, and I walked out. I didn't say a word. I could hear the whispers starting behind me, the collective shock of our social circle, but I didn't care. I felt like I had been stripped naked in front of everyone I knew. Later that night, I got a single text from her. "Don't wait for me tonight, Julian." I spent the night driving, fueled by a blind, white-hot rage. I went to her favorite spots, I called her friends, I checked hotels, but she had turned her phone off. She had simply erased me for the night. We separated shortly after that. The divorce was a blur of paperwork and cold mediation. She moved back into her parents' house, into that fortress of people who thought I was a failure for my biology. 6 months later, she gave birth to twin boys. Even though I was no longer in her life, I found myself driving past her parents' house sometimes, late at night, driven by a morbid curiosity. I never saw a man there. No other guy coming over to play dad. Just her parents, and those two babies. One night, about a year after the divorce, one of Clara's former best friends showed up at my apartment. She was drunk and crying, saying she felt guilty for how everything went down. We ended up talking until 3 in the morning, and eventually we ended up in bed. In the quiet aftermath, she whispered something that changed everything. She told me that she didn't think there was another man. She said Clara had grown tired of waiting for me to fix myself or for my job to change. She told me Clara had likely gone to a fertility clinic, used a donor, and staged the infidelity and the barroom confession just to blow the marriage apart. She wanted the kids, and she wanted her freedom, and she knew that if she made me the villain or the victim of her cheating, I would leave without a fight. Now, years have passed. I've changed careers. I'm on solid ground. No more rigs, no more months at sea. I saw a photo of the boys recently on social media. They don't look like me, of course, but they don't look like anyone I recognize. They are just growing up in that house, surrounded by people who decided I was unnecessary. I realized then that Clara didn't just cheat on me with a person, she cheated on our life together with a version of the future she decided she didn't need me for. I was never a husband to them. I was just the funding for a life Clara wanted to live alone. I'm still single, still cautious, but I finally stopped checking the driveway of her parents' house. I realized that the man her father was looking for, the one who could give her what she wanted, was never supposed to be me. It was whoever she could use to get what she wanted.